Hi everyone, it's Chenso from Reality Art Pod, here to rank the Big Brother 28 players based on where I think they stand in the game as of the end of the Week 6 Thursday live eviction episode. This week we saw Yash's HOH get sabotaged by Devin's Diamond Veto play and an eventual 8-1 Kamu eviction. Before I dive in, links in the description to my BB28 playlist to catch up on my recaps and rankings. If you like the videos, consider liking, subscribing, and commenting who you think is playing the best and worst game as of the time you're watching this. Firstly, we lost Kamu this week, who last week I ranked 8th. Coming into this week, he'd just driven the bus over his besties. We all thought he was going to get away with it. He gets a strong start to the week, building the bridge with Haley, which was the right thing to do. He needs that number to help build his alliance. But other players start realizing what he did to his friends, which he should have expected, as if he didn't witness firsthand other players throwing their friends under the bus and looking bad for it multiple times this season. With his friend Yash in power, he once again is in the HOH's ear. I got a lot of comments for ranking him too low last week because he has a lot of influence in the game, but what happened to him this week was being plotted even last week. Fap was threatened by him as a competitor, the icons were annoyed with him, them coming together with the power is a nightmare for Kamu, and he finds himself diamond vetoed on the block. He handles that well, keeping his cool, quickly addressing it, trying to figure out what happened. He's got loyal support and does a good job campaigning for himself to stay. The influence he has on others is very impressive, but ultimately, he comes into Thursday's show without the votes to stay. He was going home if he lost the blockbuster, then he lost, then he went home. Getting into the rankings, we don't know yet who's the week 7 HOH. So in 11th, I have Haley, who last week I put 12th. Haley came into this week having survived eviction by the hair of her chinny chin chin. She won the blockbuster, but would have survived the vote against Chuck. Did she make the most of it? She comes crawling back to Kamu, trying to make amends, which pretty much ends her comeback story because she's quickly back on her usual BS. She heard that one guy screaming for her when she won the blockbuster, so she's convinced that America is rooting for her because she's bullied. That leads to her continuing to harass Lala and call her a bully, which sends Lala into traumatic shock for the week. Haley goes on the block again and again does a terrible job campaigning for herself. She kind of feels like she's just waiting to inevitably go home. She talks about not wanting to go to the jury house and just isn't enjoying herself. She survives the vote against Kamu through no campaigning of her own. Now both of her buddies are gone and she's in there alone. She's not terribly positioned in the game. She could be there for a while, but for now, she seems to just be waiting for her eviction. In 10th, I have Latrice, who last week was 11th. Lala just came off a great week being HOH, being involved in game conversations, treated like she was valued by her allies, and the second she's out of office, she gets crumpled up and thrown away in the trash. Feeds come back after the eviction, and it seems like Lala got annoyed that the house was going to keep Haley before the last eviction, and Taylor was then annoyed with Lala for being annoyed. Then Latrice has a public fight with Haley, where Haley calls her a bully, and Lala takes this to heart, talking about not even wanting to be there anymore, and she disappears into the background. She's safe because Yash is HOH, but is pretty excluded. Her group with Yash, Kamu, Taylor solidify their alliance as the Covenant, but she's not very respected by them, and strategically pretty much does nothing all week. I fear that's just Latrice's new life in the house. Then she was left out of the vote in this eviction, so she's just completely on the back burner right now. In 9th, I have Dee, who last week was 6th. Last week, she had a messy week of gameplay and self-sabotaged, and this week was the aftermath. Yash, who had been plotting against the icons, wins HOH, and she's going to get nominated. I was surprised with how paranoid and shaken she was ahead of nominations because, like I said last week, she was playing silly games. She should have expected silly prizes. She makes an attempt to bribe Yash and fails, but it was worth a try. But she had the parachute in the form of Devin's veto. They worked with Fap to form the mosh pit, which put them in the majority for now, but the girls in Fap don't want to be loyal to it. So Dee is in such a bad spot, and I have her below Devin's because she has dragged them both into this spot, and had she not been saved, she would have lost that blockbuster to Angela and be evicted this week. The icons are all this low because they are all extremely likely to go on the block all together this week, and when they do, it's no telling which one of them will go. In 8th, a big fall for Devins, who last week was 1st. He had quite the week this week. He was safe personally thanks to his relationship with Yash, and coming into this, he'd already promised Dee that he'd use his power on her if she was on the block, so he kind of had to. I like the big flashy move he made, and this kind of thing is exactly his brand, but the way he went about it was the kind of thing you would do on Survivor that ends up being a a short term win, but a long term issue, putting a target on your back. So now, while he's in a good position with win equity, they no longer have the tricks up their sleeve to shield themselves from an inevitable future targeting, and he no longer has a good relationship with the other side of the house. Coming out of this week, he's pissed off the other side. Did he waste his power? Not completely. He made a big game move with it, and who knows, maybe the icons will stay in power and never would have had another opportunity to use it, but he is likely going on the block for the first time this week. Does he even survive a vote or a blockbuster against D? I'm not so sure. If I'm in the house and Devins is on the block on Thursday, after the veto thing, I'm voting him out. In 7th, I have Angela, who last week was 7th. She starts the week with drama, roping herself into the Lala Haley drama as the middle person. She tries and fails to save herself from being nominated. She eventually does get looped in on the plan with the powers. That was a game move that involved her, but she had no strategic involvement she could claim credit for. The mosh pit got her into the majority alliance, and her plan right now is to tag along with the mosh pit and probably be loyal to them until the end, but it's about to fall apart, and Angela's connections outside of this alliance are weak. She's got Lala and Haley, who are two of the worst players, and there's consistent drama with the three of them. If she has to call in a favor, how much can they help her, or how much would they want to? I'm not sure, but she's probably going to continue to go on the block until she can wiggle her way into a better position. She wins the blockbuster Thursday, which was awesome, and gives her something she can claim as a contribution to the game. I'm pretty confident she could outlast Dee and Devins in the game, the way things are right now, but after that, then what? In 6th, I have Barrett, who last week was 3rd. He survived the block last week, and this week, he almost hits that block again. As the week went on, resentment for Barrett grew from the other side of the house. Firstly, he's put minimal effort in with the other side. They see FAP as a 4 that needs to get broken up, and his obvious connections with Dee and Mallory have put him in the position as the prime person to take out to weaken a lot of things. And the other side really wants to recruit Mallory. Him not being there makes it a lot easier. Yash and Kamu were seeing Barrett as a threat, and he's the replacement nominee if the vets are nominated and come off the block. Would he go home against a vet? Unlikely, but he continues to be not respected and committed to doing nothing in the game. Unless he can bond with the whole house and not just who he wants to, his time will come, and maybe soon. In 5th, I have Drew, who last week was 2nd. Drew has another okay week, staying loyal to all his people, which has led to them all joining up in one group, even if it was temporary. Crossovers, bringing in Melody, makes Drew's life a lot easier. I'm torn about Drew because sometimes I feel like I'm watching Drew's winning game, and other times it feels like he truly is just at summer camp and having the time of his life. Over the course of the week, his game suffers. He rallies hard against Kamu, who he was cool with. He could have kept playing the middle, but now the house knows where his loyalties lie. Melody and Mallory are learning about the crossovers and losing trust with the guys. It's looking a bit dreary for now, but I have him over Barrett since there are times when I see Drew as a winner. There aren't many times I see that in Barrett. In 4th, a big jump up for Yash, who last week was 10th. He starts this week on a high, winning the HOH competition, and being in power, he continues his anti-icons agenda, deciding to accomplish this by nominating Angela, Dee, and Haley. Were these the right nominations? With Haley being a free agent and knowing that there are 2 unknown powers that are definitely held by Dee and Devins, the move here, if you want to take a strike at the icons, is putting all 3 of them on the block. So he left a middle-aged man-shaped hole in the Death Star. He was snowed by Devins, thinking he was in so many alliances with him, the primaries, the Dapper Dans, the Wolf Pack. Yash was in a lot of alliances. The problem is Devins was in them and they were all fake. He declines Dee's bribe, which is whatever. Whatever he decided to do with that would have been both the right decision and the wrong decision. Maybe he should have just taken the money because he could have had $5,000 and his HOH not ruined. When Yash wins the veto, he has the chance to rectify the mistake he didn't know he made, but he doesn't use it, and when Devins uses his diamond veto, it ruins Yash's plans and nerfs his HOH. He kind of goes into panic mode with Kamu on the block, scrambling to salvage his #1 ally, but also scrambling to not have his HOH ruined. He campaigns hard for Kamu to stay, and while he makes good points to Mallory and Melody and almost gets them to do what he wants, he fails. They were going to vote Kamu out if he was on the block against Haley, but I think Yash is better off without Kamu. He can pull the littles in over the vets, and if he can get the vets out, or even with the vets still there, he's a great competitor that could win his way through the game. I know I have a lot of criticism for him, but still rank him highly because now that he can see his fake alliances are fake, he knows who his real allies are. He's one of the better competitors. Mallory and Melody are leaning towards working with him. Positionally, he's in a great spot coming into week 7, but if the icons win HOH, he's got to win something else. In third, I have Taylor, who last week was ninth. Taylor comes into this week after running Lala's HOH, and I think the amount of Lala control she's had in the last few weeks had gone to her head a bit. She starts the week being annoyed with Lala for doing her own thing for once. She's often annoyed with Lala and saying Lala is stupid, which I don't like, but she kind of shuns Lala at the start of the week. But Lala will still let Taylor control her game no matter what, which is sad, but fine, I guess, and great for Taylor. She gets Yasha's HOH, and for a lot of the week, she and Yash are both still not realizing that most of their alliances aren't real because of Devon's, but she does lock in her side of the house with Yash, Kamu, and Lala, which is her real alliance, so it's good that she's locking in with people that really want to work with her. Now, with Kamu evicted, that alliance takes a hit, and she's still got Yash and Lala, but she's got a window about to open up to work with Mallory and Melody. She has Yash in front of her as a target if the vets win HOH. I think she's in a good spot to make something good happen for herself. Similar to Yash, now that she's seen that her fake alliances are fake, the options are becoming more linear. When the right path opens up for her, she's going to see it and she's going to take it. In second, I have Melody, who last week was fifth. Melody's week started shaky. She was one of Yasha's potential nominees, but he's talked out of it largely by Drew. She wins the time capsule, and now everyone wants to be Melody and Mallory's friends. They have plot armor. Convenient that now the vets want to pull them into an alliance. As the week goes on, Melody learns that she and Mallory are at the bottom of the mosh pit, that the crossovers exist. She becomes distrustful of Drew. All great realizations for her game. And she and Mallory end up in the power position in the middle, culminating on Thursday when both sides are fighting for their votes. They decide to evict Kamu either way, and Angelo winning the blockbuster gave them the cover to not even be the swing votes anymore. So they're still undercover for now, and after this eviction, both sides will continue to fight for their loyalty, which is a great spot to be in. But in first for this week, I have Mallory, who last week was fourth. The Pipe Queen brought a lot of fun to the house last week, and this week it translated into game. Yash kept her safe, and through the week, Yash and Taylor are courting Mallory for an alliance. They bring her in on multiple occasions to talk game. Between the official formation of FAP last week, the shaky creation of Mosh Pit, the growing bond with the other side, a potential future thing with Melody, Taylor, and Lala, Mallory has gone from being the house target to being so well positioned in the game alongside Melody, and as the one of their two who's proven to win more things and who has stronger bonds on both sides. I'm locking Mallory in as number one for now. So those are my rankings for week 6. Let me know in the comments who you think is playing the best and worst game at the time that you're watching this. If you like the content, consider liking and subscribing. I'll be back on Sunday to recap the nominations episode. I'm also recapping the challenge right now, so check that out. Until next time, you know where to find me. Bye.